Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's Becky Pearson with Destri Millsap, and today we are here to talk about the mental side of recovery. Last week we talked about physical recovery, and we were thinking about the mental side of things, and really thought we could dedicate probably a whole show just to mental recovery. What do you think, Destri?
Absolutely. I mean, having your mind right when you're going through anything, really, competition, recovery, that's half the battle. So I'm excited to talk about this today.
Yeah. So a few years ago, well, quite a few years ago now, really, I had a horse that was a barrel crasher. He was absolutely the most talented horse I have been on, physically, but he was very tough to ride. I didn't know a whole lot when I got him. He's one of those horses that I wish I had a do-over on, because he was so wickedly talented. But I was so mentally fried from running him and hitting barrels that I could not even literally imagine a clean run in my mind. So if I couldn't even imagine it in my mind, how on earth was I supposed to go out there and make a clean run physically? You know, it was like a hope and pray method, which really didn't work. And so, the mental side of this, I don't you think, like the old saying of, you know, the half of, or the biggest battle is like, it's half mental, or 90% of it is half mental. I mean, it's so mentally tough in the Western industry, in the sports that we do, no matter if it's, a high school sanctioned sports or equine industry type sport. I think your mental aspect is so important. What are your thoughts on it?
Yes. So there's different types of toughness. And I didn't realize this till I got older and was around a bunch of sports teams and how they taught their players. But, growing up, you always prided yourself in being tough. And most of that you would think physical toughness, but mental toughness and spiritual toughness are also two parts of toughness that get overlooked. And so, in order to be absolutely as tough as you can be, you have to be mentally tough to go through things, which the physically tough stuff has always been a lot easier for me personally. I mean, I can take any type of physical pain that I've had thus far and been able to push through. But the mental aspect, struggling with self doubt, things like that, that is where I have had bumps in the road. And then, I look back at the times that I've really struggled, and it's because I lacked spiritual toughness and staying hooked up spiritually. And so those three components are what really drive me and what make me better. And so now what I do in my day is I address something spiritually, which I have a 40-minute commute, so I got a little bit of windshield time one way. And so I just started filling that up with positive things and things to get my mind right for the day. And then also to get my mind right going home, because those are two separate things. I go to work at the beginning of the day, got to have my mind right for that. And then there's a whole other set of things when I get home that either need done or horses or being there for my wife and just making sure that my mind's right when I walk in the door and I'm not carrying work back home.
Mhm.
So, uh, I listen to a Christian podcast on the way to work. That gets me going for my first part of my day. And then I'll usually hit up a mental podcast on the way home and just, try to stay motivated that way and keep my head in the game. And that's being consistent with that. I've just seen so much growth personally that I mean, it's been incredible. And it's also helped me stay consistent in my physical journey as well because now I'm in my routine. All right, I got my spiritual deal. Now I'm at the gym. I get my physical on. Now I'm headed home to new set of things. Got my mental aspect going, and so my head's in the game at all times.
I agree 100%. So for me, yeah, same thing. Like, I start my morning. I have a app on my phone, the U Version Bible. It has a little reminder that pops up that, hey, you need to pray today. And so, I get up, try to work out, and then as I'm getting ready, I am listening to whatever the verse of the day is, reading that and getting my mind right, like you said, spiritually. And then I also have a long commute. I have a 90-minute commute right now. And so I am usually taking that time, like you said, to get my mind right. I have there's a motivation university or something like that on Spotify that I listen to a lot in the mornings. Um, and so I think having that mental preparedness as you set about your day is so critical. But, I don't allow myself to check social media until after I have done my daily devotional. And it just works a lot better for me. It helps me put everything in perspective. And I've really grown a lot in my spiritual journey over the last 6 months, actually the last year. And, sure don't claim to be perfect at everything or nothing. I am not perfect at all, but definitely trying and definitely trying to be the best version of myself, no matter what. And so it's been interesting as even this past weekend, running into some friends of mine that one in particular that she's an amazing lady. She is working out like a rock star. She is doing everything possible. And she had commented to me that she felt tired this weekend when she was running her horses. She had 2 horses there. She just is feeling exhausted. And so I think, we are very high achievers. Most of us in this sport of rodeo and Western stuff, like, we aren't ones to just always sit on the couch and take the easy way out. We are high achievers. And so I think burnout and mental fatigue is a very big part of this. And that was my suggestion for her, is like, when are you ever taking a break? When are you ever mentally giving yourself a recovery day? And she really wasn't. And so one quote that I found was, fatigue makes a coward of all of us. And so if you think about that, like, when we are tired and when we are just wore out, it is so much easier for us to say, no, I just can't do that right now. Or, we are not going to be our best self if we are fatigued mentally, physically, and wrung out. And so, if we're expecting that horse to be at their best when we run through the gate or back in the box, if we're not at our best, how are we going to expect them to compete at their best? So,
And they can feel everything in our bodies. They can, and that's why, we're addressing the physical stuff with our rider performance program. And, but stress and anxiety and things like that, they feel that too. And they'll get amped up right along with you. And so it's important for us to be right mentally, to be that strong point and that strong leader for our horse when we go to compete. And especially those young horses, man, they can feel like crazy and they just feed off of you, and you're their safe point. So you got to be a strong leader for them. And especially like our patients too. I mean, we're going to have bad days, and it's a lot of times hard to set yourself up and push through it when your mind's back home at something that happened, or something that happened earlier in the day. And I think that's what rodeo taught me, is have a short memory and move on to the next thing, so things don't compile on each other. Especially calf roping, you make one mistake, you got to move on so it doesn't turn into 2 3 mistakes and keep costing you time. And that's what my grandpa always taught me in the pen, and anybody else that I learned from. They just are like, man, just keep going, keep hustling, and get through it and have a short memory. So that, going from rodeo to rodeo, I mean, And honestly, Becky, when we were younger, how much did people even talk about mental stuff? I mean,
Not at
like
all.
struggled, I really struggled mentally when I was in high school rodeo and college rodeo, and I got better at it in college. And now that I've worked on it, when I go to the jackpot, I'm like a completely different person. But I always wonder what I could have done had I been stronger in my mental game in high school. And there just wasn't much emphasis on it. You just had to dig deep and do the best you could. But man, I'd be so nervous. I'd be sitting there in the calf roping box and my picking string would just be going like that because I was so stinking nervous every time I backed in there.
Mhm.
And but that competitiveness too, once they crack the gates, I mean, you don't feel anything. And I think that's what keeps me going down the road is just that that feeling of nothing else in the world mattering once them gates crack.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I didn't have a mental game when I first started barrel racing. Like it was I didn't do a lot of high school athletics because quite honestly, we lived too far from town. And so that my horse was my sport. And so when I got into barrel racing and I had that horse that was so turny and he was frying me mentally, I really needed to figure something out and figure it out quickly. And so I started talking to some people. One of the people that I had talked to was Ty Hillman. And if you guys, follow his stuff, his channel and things like that are Prepare to Win. And it was so good to talk to him. Obviously, they compete at a very high level. And he talked about how when we're mentally fatigued or we have fatigue of the brain, we have depression, we have a don't give a shit attitude, and you lose your passion. And I mean, how many of us have had that, whether it's with our sport of rodeo or even our work, like how much mental fatigue do we have with our job? And, we have to really protect our mental state. And so, when you think about the things that you do to protect your mind and your mental state, most people that'll be listening to this podcast, they probably do something, because if you don't listen to a podcast, you're probably not really seeking to get better. Most people that are just pretty happy with status quo, they aren't seeking out things like this. So, kudos to you listeners out there or people watching on YouTube. You are doing things to help yourself. So that is wonderful. But, we really have to protect what goes into our mind, garbage in, garbage out. We have to make sure that we are putting good stuff into our mind for sure. I started reading a few different books way back when I first started this journey. Ones that I really like are Mind Gym, and I loved Relentless too. That is the story um, of the athletic trainer behind Michael Jordan, and he worked with Kobe Bryant. That is amazing. And when I read that, I thought of Trevor Brazil. Have you read that one at all, Destry?
I haven't, but big fan of Trevor and Michael Jordan. Still think both are the GOAT. So
Yeah. And so there's a lot of the obviously that book is called Relentless. When you look at Trevor's brand of things, it's Relentless. So I have a feeling he might have read that book. So it's pretty cool though. That one is really good. My girls both really liked that one. And so I've been trying to help them with their mental journey as well. But neither one of those really helped me come up with a system for like when you get to the event, and what do you do mentally when you get to the event. And that's where I liked a book called 10-Minute Toughness. And it really helps you draw out a 10-minute mental prep before you go in the arena. And it's it involves some, breathing, making sure you're calm, you're developing your own personal highlight reel. And so, you are thinking back to the times when you had the best performance of your life. And you're thinking about the sights, the sounds, the smells, what was the atmosphere like? And you're pumping yourself up to recreate that. But how many times are we in either that holding pen or we're waiting to rope and we're thinking about, oh my gosh, you know, I haven't competed in a month, well, I know for myself, I've done that because I stay busy with the kids things. So I don't get to compete as much as I'd like to. And I get in that holding pen and I'm maybe one or two away from running. And I've found myself saying, Becky, you haven't ran in a month. Are you gonna remember what to do? Are you gonna know what to do? And so I have to really be aware and make sure my self-talk is focusing on what I want to accomplish when I run through that gate. In like, for example, this weekend, I needed to keep my horse's shoulder up at second and third because he'd been cutting me off in my entry. And so that's the only thing that I was telling myself when I ran through that gate was shoulder up, and keeping it very simple. Do you have a similar mental routine when you go to rope as far as to get your mind right?
I mean, you nailed it. Visualization is key. And so if you think back to people that have been in a bad wreck in the arena and they're going back out there for the first time, it's really scary for them. And athletes, same way, getting back on that court for the first time and stuff. And so, one, you have to have faith in your process that you rehab yourself all the way, everything's strong, your body's going to support you when you make that movement. And then two, you have to see yourself doing that thing that you've always done and that you know how to do and just trust it. The coolest part about this job is taking somebody through a recovery process and then watching them compete at their highest level again after being down for an extended period of time with an injury. And that whole time, you just literally have to picture yourself doing your thing again. And that is what will help you get through the rehab process and make a full recovery and stay hooked. Anytime you get down, just remember why you started, whether it's work or rehab or working out or working at your craft. Remember why you started, remember why you do it. And you mentioned burnout and depression and things like that, anxiety. Those are running rampant right now, especially after COVID. I mean, if you didn't have about a half mental disorder after COVID, then congratulations, because it screwed a lot of people up. And so, I mean, there's things like when I was running hard with my new job, I would just almost get on autopilot and not even realize how unhealthy my mental game was. And then, you're feeling all these things like you're tired all the time. You just want to sleep all the time. You can't engage in conversation. You can't engage with your friends. You're in the roping pen, but you're unhappy. I mean, there was a time where I was even winning money at roping and I just like didn't feel anything. And I'm like, what is going on? Well, I'd been working a ton and little did I know, I was kind of burning myself out, burning the candle at both ends. And, things like depression, like you get hurt and have a surgery or something and you're really down and you just don't feel like doing anything. You have no motivation. And those things, knowing what I know now, are signs of depression, signs of severe anxiety going out there to do certain things. I mean, about any of us at some point in our life probably experienced some sort of light depression or anxiety or something like that and didn't even know what to call it. I know growing up, I would have some of the feelings that I have now. I didn't even know what to call that. I was just like, oh my God, I'm scared, or, oh, I'm just really tired or sad or something like that. And now we have all these clinical diagnoses of what that actually is and how you can help people get through that.
Yeah. And I see it a lot either with people when their horse gets hurt or they get hurt in slipping into that depression because all those goals that you had set, man, you just think, well, will I ever get back or will my horse ever get back? One of the tools that I use with my patients in the clinic, and it doesn't matter, I gave it to a Medicare patient the other day, and I've given it to young people as well, is starting a gratitude journal. And you don't need to go buy something real expensive, but just trying to write down daily at least one or two good solid things that you are thankful for. And I had to go through this just this past fall. I had a lot of angst about the situation that I was in. And that wasn't me. I was not a person to dwell on what possibly could go wrong. I'm a very positive kind of person. I always try to think of the glass as half full versus half empty, but life can beat you down and life can really get you in a bind, mentally if you let it. And I reached out for some help, and one of the things that the gal suggested to me was a gratitude journal. And I tell you what, man, that changed my attitude. Like within a week, doing that solid every day for a week, I went from being anxious and worried to like, okay, I got this. I can do this. And there's so many other people out there that are in worse situations than what I am. So, it just definitely has been great. So look up any kind of a gratitude journal you want. I could even put some links in the show notes to how I do mine. I think that is a very valuable tool for sure to use.
Well, so here's the deal. Life is hard. And if you make it harder, I mean, by fighting yourself mentally and fearing stuff that hasn't happened yet and may not happen, you're just kicking yourself in the foot. And don't be as scared of adverse situations because you're going to find out a lot about yourself when your back's against the wall. How are you going to respond when things aren't going your way, when you're hurt and you got to come back, when your back's against the wall financially and you got to come back, when your good horse is down and you still got to make it to the next one. I mean, adverse situations are what mold you and shape your character, and you can't be scared of that. And they're going to happen whether you want it to or not. And so I really think, again, spiritually, mentally, physically, and you can attack anything. And obviously, the number one is spiritually, keeping God in your heart, praying about it, and then taking action and just trusting yourself, trusting God that everything's going to work itself out at the right time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's, when I realized last year that, going through one of the hardest things in my life, that I'm gonna get weepy. That God
Oh,
was
here
right
we go.
there with me. Sorry. He had been with me
That's
every step of the way. This might have to be another outtake, but not a funny outtake. But he had been with me every step of the way, and it just dropped me to my knees. And so very thankful. I'm an ugly
absolutely.
crier.
There's nothing wrong with showing emotion. I mean, the thing about cowgirls don't cry and cowboys don't cry, I mean, that's not an actual thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's you are not alone if you're going through some crap, because you can always drop to a knee and say a prayer for sure. And God is there. You just got to look for him, let him in.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to that. I mean, my darkest times, that's what's pulled me out. And here's the deal, when you're going to the next level, you're actually gonna go from the bottom and then shoot straight up. And that's just how life works. That's how God works. I mean, when everything is stacked against you and you're in a storm and you weather that storm, here's the first thing is it's not going to last forever. All storms pass. And once you hit that low point, the only way to go is up. And the bigger the challenge, the greater the reward's going to be. And that's what's kept me going through grad school, through anything that I've accomplished up to this point, through building new programs in my business. I mean, that is what has kept me going, and has also made me not afraid of challenges and just accepting challenges and knowing that those are going to make me better.
Yeah, you can't be afraid of the challenge or the fight, because it will make you better. It will push you. It will push you to be the best that you can be. And you keep it in perspective though, too. Like, why are you doing it? I feel like you and I have a passion and a calling, and I'm so very thankful we're doing this podcast. I'm so very thankful we're talking to people about this. I think there's a reason why we've been brought together to be able to share this stuff. I hope people get some value in it. And it's all part of the journey, and it is all part of us being serving our purpose and what we were sent to do.
Absolutely. That's why we got into this, is to help people. And from the bottom of our hearts and how we were brought up, we're in it to help people reach their fullest potential. And that is such a huge responsibility, especially in my job taking care of these high school kids and making sure that they have a future and they get to that next step, and keeping them healthy so they can go to the next level and they show up there in one piece. And that's why I get up every day and come to this job. And that's what keeps me going. And whenever you're going through stuff, God has usually three answers: yes, not yet, and I got something better in mind. So the things that don't turn out, usually, I mean, every time something better comes along. And so it almost makes me more excited. Sometimes when things don't work out, it's almost a sigh of relief, because I quickly remember something better is about to come, something that I didn't even see, and something I don't have the capacity to see is coming my way.
I agree 100%. Any other thoughts on the mental side of things?
No, man, my brain is almost fried. That was fun.
So let's talk a little bit about the last couple times we've talked about our rider evals, and you've been getting some interest in that, and so have I. And so if people want to reach out in regards to getting their own rider eval, they can message either one of us or message the Pivot Point page. And I have a Solid to the Core clinic coming up this weekend in Hayes. You guys will probably be listening to this after the clinic, and super excited about doing that. We go in there, we do some goal setting, we talk about physical training, what kinds of things can you do to keep yourself healthy, keep yourself strong. We talk about nutrition, we talk about mental side of things, we touch on that, and then we go to the arena in the afternoon. We show you how to keep your horse healthy by doing some core and stretching with your horse, and then we work a little on your horsemanship and show you a few things there. So if anybody is interested in hosting one of those clinics, I would love to come to your area and do one. And yeah, do you have any other shameless plugs you'd like to give, Destri?
I wish this school bell would quit ringing. That'd be nice. But man, it's giving me trauma back in my high school.
I can't hear it, so we're probably good.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that's incredible, because it's really loud.
Mm.
Yeah, so had a couple calls this week with people wanting to do the rider performance program, and I'm so excited for that. And just watching their videos and gonna getting to be with them on their journey is just gonna be an absolute honor and fun time. So I'm really excited that if you guys need anything, uh, call us, message us. I mean, there's whoever has my phone number, get it from them. Follow us on social media, send us a DM, send us a Facebook message, and let's get started. Rodeo season's the summer run. I mean, rodeo season never stops, but summer run's coming up, and now's the time to get ready. So let us help you.
I agree. Do you have a tagline ready for this week?
It's always, as always, thank you for listening, and let your health be the pivot point to your success.
Perfect. Love it. Thanks so